welcome you to Stillwater Church. My name is Jon. I'm one of the pastors here, and I'm so thankful that you've come here today with us to worship Jesus. You know, we've been talking in this message series about questions that are too big to ignore, difficult questions. This is our last weekend of that, and this morning we're going to kind of follow up. We talked about last week. We talked about the problem of suffering and evil. Why is it that bad things happen? And last week we talked about that. And this week we want to focus on why do bad things happen to me? Because for all of us, when we set out, we get up in the morning and our feet hit the floor, we generally have good intentions for that day. We don't go out and say, boy, I'm going to just go out today and mess up a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to make somebody else's life miserable, or I'm going to make decisions that are going to wreck my life. And yet sometimes things don't go so well. Sometimes even the best of intentions, even the best laid plans don't work out as we hope that they would, and bad things happen. We say, why is it that bad things happen? Sometimes with the best of intentions, things don't work as we expect that they would. If you doubt that, just check out this video of a few guys who experienced this in their own life. I don't know what's up with that, but you know, those guys are dealing with some serious broken dreams at that moment. You know what? I think the cardinal rule towards a very public proposal like that is you need to know that the answer is going to be yes, right? If there's any doubt, like 0.5% of doubt in your mind, don't go with the really public idea, because you might be one of those guys on YouTube that we all watch and kind of laugh at. But you know, the truth is we all have great plans, great intentions, and great desires in life, and sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes we put ourselves out there and things don't work out the way that we hoped that they would. Some of you have heard me tell the story before of a guy named Justin who was in my youth group back a number of years ago. Justin was a student who I liked. I got to spend a lot of time with, but he didn't always make the best of decisions. He was a senior in high school, and we went on a youth group mission trip, and Justin brought his girlfriend along with him on the trip. And part of the way through the trip, we were stopping at a food court in the mall in Columbus, and Justin approached me as we were walking into the building, and he said, "Hey, I want to propose to my girlfriend tonight." And I'm not usually one to just quickly shoot down somebody's idea, but I said, "Justin, that is a terrible idea, because one of two things is going to happen here. First, either she's going to say no, and then you have to be with her the rest of this trip in a bus, right? And that's awkward. Or two, she's going to say yes, and you have to explain to everybody forever why you proposed in a mall food court on a youth group trip, right? That's not a very good proposal. Sorry to all of you who got engaged in food courts, but there probably were better ways of doing this, right? So anyways, Justin, he kind of seemed to understand or whatever. So we had dinner, we had some free time, and then we gathered together there. I was giving instructions as to we were going to load the bus again. And wouldn't you know, I hear from the back of the crowd someone say, "Excuse me, I've got something I want to say." And it was Justin. And I was doing everything I could in this moment to make eye contact with him, because I was giving him the most evil possible look that I could imagine. But he wouldn't look at me because he knew I was probably going to give him the most evil possible look imaginable. And he continues on. He drops to one knee. He proposes to this girl, and she gave him the right answer because they had been dating about 2 months and they were in high school. And she said no and ran to the bathroom. It was an awkward moment, to say the least. I said the only thing I could think of to say, which was, "Everybody to the bus." And the rest of the group went to the bus, and I stayed with Justin a little bit, tried to console him. And he said, "You know, I thought this through. I thought it was going to be great. I even bought the ring here at the mall." And I said, "Well, I guess not all is lost, Justin, right? I mean, let's go and return that ring. You can at least get your money back." And he said, "I can't do that." I said, "Why not? Didn't you save your receipt?" He said, "I bought it from that vending machine over there. They don't do refunds, right?" I said, "Justin, you've got to be kidding me. This was not even a good plan, right?" But sometimes we have the best of intentions, and things don't work out the way that we want them to happen. And in the Bible, we see lots of examples of this, but I want to focus on one today. It's It's a story of a guy named Moses. He's one of the most well-known people in the Bible. He's one of the people listed in the New Testament over and over and over again as someone who's a hero of our faith. So Moses clearly was a model for us. And we would think, Moses, he took God's people from slavery. They had been enslaved by Pharaoh for over 400 years. And he took them, he led them out, and led them to the promised land. That's a pretty good resume right there. Moses had done some incredible stuff. And so we would say, wow, with a life like that, it must be just full of success along the way. And there was a great deal of success, but there was also a great deal of challenge. And I know for me, I find a lot of hope as I look at Moses' life, because I think that normal people like me and you can learn a lot from him. Why do bad things happen? Well, we'll find a few lessons from Moses' life. Why do bad things happen? The first reason is injustice messes things up. In our world, it's not always a just or a fair place. The playing field is not always level for everybody. And Moses encountered this in a powerful way when God called him in the desert. He spoke to him in a burning bush, and he said, Moses, I want you to go, and I want you to say to that powerful man Pharaoh, I want you to say, let my people go. That's your job. Pharaoh has enslaved the Israelites for hundreds of years. They're the backbone of Pharaoh's economic system, but Moses is supposed to go and tell Pharaoh to let him go, to stop. This is wrong. It's not just. It's not fair to enslave God's people. So Moses goes, and he meets with Pharaoh, and he makes these demands, and Pharaoh brushes him off. Pharaoh can't believe that anybody would come with such an audacious request. In fact, Pharaoh makes matters worse for the Israelites. Pharaoh actually expects more of them, or he expects them to continue making bricks, but then he doesn't give them the straw. He doesn't give them the necessary materials to make it, so their life actually gets worse. Exodus 5. Since Pharaoh would not let up on his demands, the Israelite foremen could see they were in serious trouble. And as they left Pharaoh's court, they met Moses and Aaron, who were waiting outside for them. The foreman said to them, "May the Lord judge you for getting us into this terrible situation with Pharaoh and his officials. You have given them an excuse to kill us." So Moses went back to the Lord and protested, "Why have you mistreated your own people like this, Lord? Since I gave Pharaoh the message, he has been even more brutal to the people. You have not even begun to rescue them." Moses is angry. He voices his anger to God. And what Pharaoh's doing is unjust. It was already unjust, and he makes it even more unjust. And Moses says, "God, why aren't you doing something about this?" And the truth is, there is injustice in the world. It doesn't mean that God wants it. In fact, God calls us to work against it. God calls us as the church to stand against injustice. Historically, the church has done that time and time again. We do it today in a variety of ways. Maybe some of you have encountered injustice in your life. You've been held back because of your gender, your age, your race, your family, your educational background, whatever it may be. And it's not fair. It's not right. God doesn't want those things, and he calls us to stand, to work against them. But a lesson from Moses is that it doesn't always go real easily. It doesn't always go real smoothly. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of challenge. But that doesn't mean we should stop. That doesn't mean we should quit, because God calls us to stand against the injustices of the world. And bad things often happen to us because of things that just simply aren't fair. If you grew up expecting that life would always be fair, you're going to be disappointed at times, because our world is oftentimes not a very just or fair place. Another reason why bad things happen to us is that people around us mess things up. You know this, don't you? If you know other people, you've had your life messed up at times. I can guarantee it. We've all suffered at times because of the actions or inactions of others around us. Moses was a poster child for this kind of suffering. He led the people out of Pharaoh's hand there in Egypt. Finally, Pharaoh got tired of all these plagues and all this difficulty, and he lets the people go. And so they depart, and they go out, and they get to the edge of the Red Sea. And Pharaoh's army is coming towards them, and they're going to destroy them or going to take them back to Egypt. And the people are scared. They don't know what to do. So God works this incredible miracle. He tells Moses to raise up his staff, and the sea parts right in front of them. The Israelites are led through it. The Pharaoh's army follows them through, and the sea crushes the Pharaoh's armies, and the Israelites are saved. There's much rejoicing, much celebration. So they continue on, and they get to Mount Sinai, and Moses goes up on the mountain, and he spends 40 days and 40 nights up there with God. I mean, imagine that. This huge cloud descends upon the mountain, and God is up there with Moses. God is giving Moses the law. God even writes out on stone tablets the Ten Commandments, and he gives them to Moses. But as Moses is on this kind of mountaintop retreat with God, things in the camp aren't so good. The people begin to be restless. They begin to wonder, what's going on with Moses? I mean, God sent him here to lead us out of this place, and here we are. He just disappears for 40 days and 40 nights. And their memory gets kind of short in this circumstance because God has been so faithful to them, but they very quickly forget what God has done. And they say, what happened to this guy? We need to move on. I mean, maybe Moses died up on the mountain, or maybe he just went down the other side of the mountain and decided he's headed off to retirement. He's had enough of this business of leading God's people. Whatever it is, Moses is not coming back. Where is Moses? Where is this God who saved us? And so they challenge Aaron. Aaron is Moses' brother who Moses has put in charge. And they challenge Aaron, and it goes like this, Exodus 32. So Aaron said, "Tell your wives and sons and daughters to take off their gold earrings and bring them to me." All the people obeyed Aaron and brought them their gold earrings. Then Aaron took the gold, melted it down, and molded and tooled it into the shape of a calf. The people exclaimed, "O Israel, these are your gods who brought you out of Egypt." Wow. Terrible thing to do. I mean, here God, they've seen God, the one true God, in action. He's led them through the sea. It's almost like, we remember when God rescued us from the Red Sea and everything, but that was like 6 weeks ago, right? What's God doing for us now? I mean, he must have abandoned us. He must have quit. And so they give up on God, and they make this idol. They make this idol, and they begin to worship it. God says to Moses, your people down there, they're making a lot of noise. What's going on? And so Moses, he descends down the mountain, and he sees this atrocity. He sees the people worshiping this false idol, engaging in all this pagan worship that they're not supposed to be doing. And Moses is irate. In fact, he's so mad, he takes the stone tablets and he throws them down on the ground and breaks them. Well, can you imagine that? God himself wrote something and handed it to you, and you go and break it. That's probably not good, right? I mean, that's a serious moment of anger right there. So Moses comes down the mountain, and he is so angry. He's so disappointed with the people, but even more so, he's disappointed with his own brother. He can't even leave Aaron in charge for 40 days before they completely go off the rails. And the conversation goes like this. Aaron says, "Don't get upset, sir. You know yourself what a wicked bunch they are." So I told them, "Bring your gold earrings." When they brought them to me, I threw them in the fire, and out came this calf. You won't believe it, Moses. I mean, we put this gold in the fire to see what would happen. We're just, having a little campfire one day, s'mores, gold, all this stuff, and boom, there's a calf. How could that happen? I don't know. Aaron lies to his brother. Remember, the earlier verse said that Aaron formed the calf with his own hands. Aaron lies because he's embarrassed. He knows that he's in trouble here. And Moses experiences the pain firsthand of being let down by those you love. You've been there. You've experienced it too, I'm guessing. Maybe it's your own family members, your spouse, your kids, your parents, whoever it may be. Maybe it's your coworkers. Maybe it's your friends. Maybe it's other people in your life who've done things, and it's messed up your life. It's made extra work for you. It's made extra pain or suffering or cost or whatever it may be. It's caused you to lose sleep at night. It's caused you to suffer in so many ways. And we recognize the fact that evil, as we said last week, is oftentimes caused because God gives us free will. And we have the freedom to use that for good, or we have the freedom to use that for bad. And when we use it for bad, unfortunately, suffering happens. Bad things happen. A third reason why bad things happen to me is that I sometimes lack faith. I sometimes lack faith. We all do. If you've been in a situation where you haven't acted as faithfully as you wish, join the crowd, because there are many folks who have been here. The Israelites, they had left Mount Sinai, and they wandered some more in the wilderness on the way to the Promised Land, this incredible place that God was giving them. And they had this great desire to take this place on the one hand, but on the other hand, they had fear. They had fear. And so when they got to the edge of the Promised Land, they decided to send in spies. There was 12 tribes of Israel, so they sent in one spy for each of the 12 tribes. So these 12 men go in and they survey the land and they check it out to see what's ahead of them. How good is this place? And what's the enemy look like? What's it going to be like going into this place? They come back out from the land, and the spies bring a very mixed report. 10 of the spies are consumed by fear, and they say, we don't want to do this. This is a big mistake. I mean, the people in this land, they're strong, they're powerful. We're not. If we go in there, we are going to get our tails handed to us. I mean, we cannot do this. This is a big mistake. The other two, Joshua and Caleb, they say, true. It's a big place. It's a scary place. And, it's not going to be easy. But we serve an even bigger God. We serve an even bigger God who can help us to defeat these people. And he's been faithful. I mean, look at what he did at the Red Sea, right? If he can get us through that, we didn't even pull a sword out. He can certainly get us through this circumstance. So we need to be faithful. We need to take the land. So we have this split vote here. And the people, they're debating among themselves. They're debating as to what is going to happen. And it's kind of funny. One of the examples that they use when they're talking about the land is they talk about the grapes. And they say, we saw grapes. You got an image here. Somebody drew it. We saw grapes so big it took 2 guys to carry the grapes, right? And you can almost hear the political pundits on each side, right? The one side is saying, look at those grapes. Have you ever seen grapes like that? I mean, imagine what those grapes must be like. We need to take this land because I want to be eating those kind of grapes the rest of my life. Don't you? That's a great retirement right there. And other people say, are you crazy? The kind of guys that eat that size of grapes, they must be huge. We can't take these dudes on. Look at their food. There's no way we can do this. And so the people are wrecked with this difficult decision. Numbers chapter 1 says this. Numbers 14, all the people began weeping aloud, and they cried all night. Their voices rose in a great chorus of complaint against Moses and Aaron. And listen to what they said. We wish we had died in Egypt, or even here in the wilderness, they wailed. Why is the Lord taking us to this country only to have us die in battle? Our wives and little ones will be carried off as slaves. Let's get out of here and return to Egypt. Then they plotted among themselves. Let's choose a leader and go back to Egypt. Can you imagine? I mean, literally weeks after God rescued us from 400-some years of slavery, generation after generation after generation of our family has been nothing but Pharaoh's slaves. And God worked this incredible miracle to lead us out. He did all these plagues where he wreaked havoc on Egypt. Then he buried the Egyptians underneath the sea. Then he met us at Mount Sinai. But we're not so sure about it. And looking at these scary guys on the other side of that river, we think we should have died in Egypt. It would have been better. It would have been better than what faces us at the other side of this. We should quit. We should go home. And we face this in our own lives. Sometimes we face challenges and we say, God, how in the world am I going to make it through this? How do you expect me to put up with this or that or the other challenge that I'm facing in life right now? I mean, yeah, you've seen me through all these other tough times, but I don't know how you're going to do it now, God. And I think the best hope that we have of God's faithfulness in the future is looking at God's faithfulness in the past. Who among us could say that we've never seen God at work? I mean, you've seen God work in your life. You've seen God work in the lives of others. You've seen God work in so many different ways. And He's sustained you to this point. It hasn't always been easy. It hasn't always been pretty, but He's sustained you to this point. Has He ever left you? Even the times where you left Him, where you gave up on Him, has He given up? Has He quit? Has He failed you? And as we look back, I hope that that gives us hope for the future to say, even on my darkest, most difficult days, God never gave up on me. So I don't want to give up on Him now. I don't want to give up. I don't want to be a person who lacks faith here. I want to be a person who steps forward in great faith. Even when circumstances are difficult, I move forward in that great faith. I don't want to go back to Egypt. Because see, the thing is, when we're in those moments where life is tough, Egypt looks really attractive. It looks like something we would like to go back to. It looks like a place where we would say, yeah, you know what? That was good. That was all right. I'd like to go back there because we forget about all the pain of the past. We put those rose-colored glasses on, and here even slavery looks good to them. And that's not how it's going to be. That's not how it's going to be. Well, you know, they get to this difficult place, and they made the wrong decision, quite frankly. They listened to the 10 unfaithful spies, and they turned around. They left. After they left, they realized that they made a mistake. They decided, all right, let's turn around, let's go back. And God says, no, you don't have the faith to follow me. You're not going into the land. They said, yes, we are. We're going to take it. We're going to go on our own strength. And they went, and they got clobbered. And they went back with their tails between their legs back into the wilderness. And God said, you unfaithful people, none of you, save Moses and Caleb and Joshua, are going to make it to the promised land. Because you don't have the faith to follow me, because even all the incredible stuff you've seen doesn't give you the faith to follow me, I'm going to go with a new set of people. Your sons and your daughters, they are going to inherit this great land. It's not going to be you. In the next 40 years, they spent wandering the wilderness, waiting for that unfaithful generation to die off. And the truth is, friends, God is going to move. God is going to work. The question is, will we be faithful to Him? Will we be the ones that God uses? Because God's going to accomplish God's plans with or without us. We can use our free will to get on board or to not get on board. What do you want to do? Do you want to be one of the ones who wanders around the wilderness the rest of your life waiting to die? Or do you want to be one of the ones who says, yes, by God's help, we can take this. We can do this. It's not going to happen on our strength, but by God's strength, it can happen. It can happen. So they wander the wilderness. Not a fun time. Not the world's best camping trip, right? Can you imagine being 40 years camping in the wilderness with people who know that their sole purpose is to die off so that we can move on? That makes for kind of a black cloud hanging over your community, doesn't it? And so they complain a lot. It's not a real pleasant time. And Moses, he's their leader. And so he's had to deal with the injustice messing things up, with people around him messing things up, with the lack of faith. But occasionally, we all make mistakes. Even Moses, even the man who God chose to faithfully lead the people. Numbers 20, there was no water for the people to drink at that place, so they rebelled against Moses and Aaron. The people blamed Moses and said, we wish we died in God's presence with our brothers. Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us into this terrible place? This land has no grain, figs, grapes, or pomegranates, and there's no water to drink. You hear a common theme here? We don't like Moses and Aaron because they pulled us out of Egypt and now life stinks. Well, they're on another one of those complaints. They did this often. One time earlier, they had said the same thing, and God had said to Moses, all right, people need water. See that rock over there? Go strike that rock with your staff, and water will come from it, and the people can drink of that. Okay? So this time it's a little bit different, though. The Lord said to Moses, you and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, command the rock over there to pour out its water. So Moses did as he was told. He took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord. Then he and Aaron summoned the people to gather at the rock. Okay? So far, so good. We're following God's directions. But here, Moses' humanity is going to get the best of him. He's frustrated, he's tired, and he's going to go off script. Listen, you rebels, he shouted. Must we bring you water from this rock? And you see the problem? First, God didn't call him to give like the tell off the Israelites speech. That wasn't really part of the equation here. We're just supposed to go and speak to the rock, and it gives us water. So Moses, he chastises the people, but he also says, must we bring you water from this rock? Who's brought the water from the rock all along? Has it been Moses? Has it been Aaron? No. It's God. Rocks don't give out water, right? We know this to be a geological fact. Moses is beginning to take credit for what God here is doing. Moses raised his hand and he struck the rock twice with the staff. Wrong action. We're supposed to speak to it, we strike it. And water gushed out. Even though Moses disobeyed, God still gives the people water. So the people and their livestock drank to their fill. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I'm going to give them. Wow. Doesn't that seem a little over the top? I mean, here's the guy who's given up everything to lead these people, and he makes this one significant, but one mistake here. And God says, because you've done this, it's not going to be you who lead them into the promised land. And I don't know about you, but this passage kind of ticks me off. You say, God, come on, can't we have a little grace here for Moses? Can't we say he's done a lot of good things, maybe we'll just kind of let this one slide? But God gives Moses this punishment. He's going to continue to lead the people, but he's not going to get to see them into the promised land. And Moses teaches us the truth that I mess things up. Sometimes bad things happen in my life, and it's just because of me. It's just because I do things I'm not supposed to do. I disobey God. I don't do things that I should do, or I do the things I shouldn't do. And we know what this is like. If you're here this morning, you can certainly look backwards in your life and say, wow, I have really screwed up some things in my life. All of us. If we took the time this morning to go around the room and share stories of this, I bet we'd be amazed at the number of mistakes that are present, the number of big mistakes that are present in this room. It's easy to come here on a Sunday and say, oh, look at all these people, they've got everything together. It's just me who really doesn't. But the truth is, if you get to know us around here, you'll get to know that there's plenty of us that have lots of things in our lives that we've messed up. Join the crowd. Join the crowd. So Moses, he disobeys, and it costs him. It costs him significantly, and our disobedience oftentimes costs us a lot. I told you earlier about Justin, the guy in my former youth group who proposed to his girlfriend. And Justin was a guy that I spent a lot of time with. He came from a really difficult family situation. He didn't really experience much love from dad and mom. And consequently, he looked for love in all the wrong places. He was also always chasing girls, getting into unhealthy relationships, trying to find love there, and he was never able to be successful in that. And he was oftentimes depressed and bummed about all that stuff. And we'd spend time together and we'd talk. And we'd talk about Jesus' love and how it was so different than the love that he had not experienced in his life. And this gap that he had in his heart could only be filled by God, not by all this other silly stuff that he tried to fill. Myself and others of our youth ministry team, we invested so much into Justin, and we saw a lot of good things. We saw a lot of great potential. Yeah, he made lots of mistakes along the way. We had this firm belief that God was using us to make such a difference in Justin's life. Earlier this past year, I got a Facebook message from one of my former youth ministry volunteers, and they said, I don't know if you've heard the news, but just recently, Justin overdosed on drugs, and he's dead. And that was a hard day for me. It was a really hard day for me. Because, I love Justin very much, and I really believe that God was making such a difference in his life. And so many of us had spent so much time trying to just help him to see just a little bit of God's love. And here's a guy who had really all the resources he needed to make good choices, but he often didn't listen to him. He oftentimes went off script and he did his own thing. And tragically, one of these times cost him his very life. And friends, the truth is that God gave Justin, and he gives you, and he gives me this whole free will thing. and we sometimes use it to our detriment. Every one of us is here today because God's grace has gotten us this far. And some of you would say, yeah, I could have been just like Justin many a time. And, no matter what you're going through, I hope that you can see the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. Justin's biggest challenge was that in every situation he faced, he saw himself as the victim of bad circumstances in life. Why do bad things happen to me, John? Why is it that other people, their dating relationships work and mine doesn't? Why is it that other people's parents love them and mine don't? Why is it that they succeed in school and I don't? And in every situation, his answer always pointed to somebody who let him down, somebody who screwed things up. And perhaps perhaps it was partially true. There were certainly things that hadn't worked well in his life. But I would say to him time and time again, Justin, you can't live your life as the victim of all these circumstances. Bad things happen to you, bad things happen to everybody. Are you going to be a victim of these circumstances, or are you going to find true victory in Jesus Christ? And friends, I ask you the same question. The life of a victim is not a very exciting life. It oftentimes leads us to places like where Justin went to, because we're not responsible for stuff because it's always somebody else's fault. At what point will we say, some of the problems in my life are just caused by me? And the ones that are not, God has still given me the strength to overcome these, and I'm going to do my best to be faithful to Him. Even though life hasn't dealt me the best hand, even though life isn't always fair, maybe right now in your life, you've been knocked down, and you're laying on the mat in life, and you're there and you're wondering, can I get back up again? Life has dealt me another tough blow. Can I really get back up? Can God actually use me? Is my life worth even living anymore? And friend, let me tell you this. Romans 8:37. Despite all of these things, we are more than conquerors through Jesus Christ our Lord. Not through ourselves. Not because we're so great or amazing. We're more than conquerors through Jesus Christ our Lord. You see, God won the victory for us already when He sent Jesus to the cross to pay the price for my screw-ups and your screw-ups and everybody else's screw-ups. And God has been faithful to you thus far. Why do you think He's going to quit now? Why do you think He's going to abandon you now? He's gotten you this far. He's not stopping. Don't you quit. Don't you quit. Get back up. Whatever it is that knocked you down, don't let it keep you down. Maybe you need to get back into that relationship and keep swinging, keep saying, you know what, I'm not quitting. I'm going to do my best. Maybe you need to set those boundaries that you've never set. Say, I'm going to not allow myself to be treated this way. Or maybe you need to go back and apply for another job. Or maybe you need to go back and see the doctor again. Or maybe you need to go back and apologize. Or maybe you need to, whatever it is, do it. Don't quit. Don't let yourself be laid out on that mat, unwilling to get back up. I know bad things have happened, but I know we serve a God who is big enough to help you get back up. God, thank you that you never give up on us. We give up sometimes. We've all messed up so many things. The injustices that have happened to us, the people who have mistreated us, those who have let us down, all these things, God, we give them to you. Because we've got nobody else to give them to. Lord, would you meet us in our pain? Would you meet us in our difficulties? Would you meet us in our suffering? Would you meet us in our depression? Would you meet us in all these places that sometimes we are at? And God, would you help us to see how we can be more than conquerors through you, through your grace, that you can give us that meaning and that purpose in life, even when things aren't easy, that we can find hope in you. We can have that God-shaped hole in our lives filled by you. A relationship with you can change us. We can someday spend eternity with you in heaven. God, would you continue to reach out to us? Lord, we love you and we pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.